Tom Griffin. Welcome to episode 4 of Owning a Grinder. We're going to talk about troubleshooting grinding applications. You've watched our previous episodes, you know you've picked the right grinder, you know you've picked the right tooling, and yet you're still not getting the results that you would expect. So we're going to talk about some of the different things that we can do to make sure that that tooling is as effective as possible. We're going to talk about when to use weights, when to remove them, when to adjust the dust shrouds, when to adjust the angle of the grinder head, wet grinding versus dry grinding, speeds, all of the different things that can impact the different types of grinding that you're doing. Let's talk about tips and tricks for running the grinders. So you've watched some previous episodes, you've got the right grinder, you've got the right tooling, you've got it attached correctly to the bottom of the machine. Sometimes performance isn't as great as you would expect it to be, or you just want to make sure that you're actually running the grinder the way that you're supposed to. So let's talk about some handy tips and tricks, and I'm gonna start with our smaller helix and work our way up to help you understand the differences in these machines and some of the ways to get the most out of them. So with the helix, you've got the tooling on the bottom. Let's talk about removing something gummy versus profiling concrete. So if you're removing something gummy, like an adhesive, you want to go slower. You want to use a lower speed. Friction is not your friend in that case, because the more friction you have, the more weight you have, the more heat you have. So that adhesive or anything that's gummy is going to melt, and it's going to start to smear instead of actually coming off of concrete, which is what you're trying to do. So using the right tooling, carbide chip, possibly a PCD if it's old and dry or really stuck on there. Carbide chip for sure, and then making sure to keep it slow and keep it cold. So in some of our other training videos, you might have seen Dave, he actually puts ice water down on the adhesive because it actually freezes it and keeps it cold and it peels right off the concrete. If you don't want to do a wet grind, then just go slower, and that'll also help to do it. If you've got a water tank here when you're doing an adhesive, you could drip some ice water down onto your tools to help keep them cool and to help take that adhesive off. But on the front of the helix, you have two speeds. We've got a high and a low. So I would put it into low for doing an adhesive. Now, if I was going to be prepping concrete, I'm going to move it into a higher speed, and I want to make sure that I've got weight. And that's actually something else that we can talk about. If you're noticing that your grinder is smearing glue, you can actually take weight off, because again, that's head pressure. So you're taking the weight off, you're generating less pressure, less friction, less heat. When you're actually profiling, when you're using diamonds, you want to make sure that you've got weight on there, because you want that friction, you want those diamond tools to stay in contact with the concrete and to really give you a nice even profile. So on the helix, we've got some weights here on the top. You also have another weight on the inside underneath here. So it's all really good pressure on there. If you notice that your tools are too aggressive, or if they're not aggressive enough, then you want to add or remove weight. So obviously not aggressive, add weight, too aggressive, remove weight. On the helix, I really like running the half bars with the full set of weights. I think that that's a really great way to profile. And it really complements the pressure of this machine. Moving on to the 8274-4. Talking about weights, this machine has 3 positions that you can have the weights in. You could either have them fully up, fully down, or you could have one weight down on each side. The way that I typically run it is gonna be one weight down on each side. It gives you a really good amount of head pressure without being overwhelming. This machine is variable speed, so it has the speed control on the control box up here. You also have forward and reverse. So again, if we're talking about removing a coating or removing, an adhesive, you want to go a little bit slower. Now, if you're removing an epoxy or something that's already dry, it's not going to smear, then you can go a little bit faster. But you don't want to go so fast that your machine is skipping over any of it. So it's gonna be a little bit of dialing in, finding that sweet spot every time that you run it, but definitely make sure that you try to do that, because time is money. So you don't want to go too slow because you're just going to waste time and waste tooling, and you don't want to go too fast because you're going to have to go back over it again to actually do your profile, and then you're also just not being productive. So on this machine, you're going to be running it probably at about 2/3 speed for doing your actual grinding and your actual profiling. If you're going to be doing a polish, you're going to be talking about high speed. When we're talking about resin pads and polishing, you really want high speed, high friction, because you've got to get that resin pad to start melting and polishing the concrete, and you need friction and heat to do that. So high speed and higher weight. On our GP series, your weights are removable up front. On the GP 500, unless you have really soft concrete, having the 2 weights here in the position are great. If you find that your diamond tooling is digging in too much into the concrete, go ahead and take those off. And obviously, again, as I'm talking about this, you're gonna know the hardness of your concrete. If it's really hard concrete, you're probably gonna need more weight on your machine. If it's soft concrete, you're probably gonna need less weight on your machine because you really don't want that tooling to dig into the concrete. So on here, you've got this, and it's the same thing. You've got a variable speed. So again, a lower speed for adhesives, for things that are soft and gummy, a medium high speed for doing your grinding, and then a high speed for polishing. And it's gonna be the same thing for the GP 700. On this machine, you've actually got 4 weights up here. Typically when I run this, I'll have 1 weight on each side. That's plenty of weight for it. If you notice that it's too much, it's okay to pull them off. And a great feature on the GP 700, if I had the weights off on the front, I'd actually be able to do that a little bit easier. On the GP 700, a great feature that our other grinders don't have is that you have the ability to actually tilt the head of the grinder to match the pitch of the concrete. So what this is gonna do is allow you, as you're going, to make sure that your grinding head, if you're on a slope, is always gonna be in contact and level or parallel with the concrete. This is gonna help you wear your tools evenly so that you're not just digging in on one edge of the tool. As you're going, if you're noticing that your diamonds aren't as productive as you'd like them to be, you want to make sure that you've matched the metal bond matrix to the concrete. So, if you've got really hard concrete and you're using a medium bond, then you're not going to be as productive as if you were using a soft bond. So really make sure that you've matched those correctly. And if you've got a question about that, just give us a call. Doing a concrete hardness test is the best way to know the actual hardness of your concrete. We've got some other videos on our YouTube channel that talk about how to do a quick and easy test of concrete hardness. So I recommend watching those. So I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about the role of dust collectors in grinding. So dust collectors, and the whole point of them is to control airborne dust. So when you're grinding, any grinder out there on the market, you're going to find dust left over on the ground. The point of a dust collector is not to 100% clean the surface that you're grinding, it's to control the airborne dust. So OSHA put out a rule that said there's a certain amount of dust that you're able to be exposed to, and by running a dust collector with a main filter and HEPA filtration, controls that airborne dust and makes the work environment safe. That's why dust collectors come with a wand and a brush instead of using a broom to clean up afterwards. You're using the approved dust collector wand in order to make sure that your environment's clean. And that's the same thing. The wand is how you're going to pick up any dust that's left over from grinding as opposed to sweeping. So we have a recommendation for what grinder goes with what machine, and the point of that is to make sure that all of the airborne dust that could be made with that grinder is controlled while you're actually working and actively grinding. And then of course, they come with a wand so that you're able to clean up when you're finished.